everybody, in today's video I'm talking about the pros and cons of living in Verde Valley, Arizona. So if you're not familiar where Verde Valley is, it is actually in the northern half of the state. It is south of Flagstaff, but north of Prescott, Arizona. So if you've ever been thinking of moving to Arizona and not quite sure where you want to fit in, you might want to watch this video because I'm talking about the top 5-6 pros of living in Verde Valley and the top 5 or 6 cons of living in Verde Valley, Arizona. So before I get into the pros and cons of living in Verde Valley, Arizona, I want to give you the towns that make up Verde Valley. You have Camp Verde, you have Cottonwood, Clarkdale, you could consider Jerome part of Verde Valley, also Cornville and Rimrock. And these towns are just south of Sedona, Arizona, kind of nestled between the Mingus Mountain range before you start climbing to get to Flagstaff, Arizona. So Verde Valley town, it is a small community. A lot of the towns have a very small population. Cottonwood, maybe 10,000, Camp Verde, 10,000, Clarkdale, Rimrock, Cornville have all less than 5,000 population, so it is a very small town. That kind of brings me to one of the pros of living in Verde Valley. Is it is a small town. It has that small town feel. It's not yet gotten overcrowded. So if you're comparing that to Phoenix, say, you know, I live in Sedona, which is right next to Verde Valley. When I go to Phoenix, I am just flabbergasted about how huge it has grown, how much traffic there is, how much people is everywhere. You go to the drive-thru and you got to wait 25 minutes to get your order because there's 50 cars in front of you. So Verde Valley is still a small town. You got a little bit of space between your neighbors, and sometimes you actually get to know your neighbors. People are somewhat friendly because they're not, 4 million people living in one small valley. So the small town feel, the small town community, I'm going to put as my number one pro to living in Verde Valley, Arizona. Now, the number 2 pro I'm going to say is there are a lot of homes that have really nice views. It kind of depends on where you're situated, but there are some houses in, say, Rimrock or Cornville or Cottonwood that have a direct view of the Red Rocks of Sedona, which makes it nice. There are a lot of other homes that have a view of Mingus Mountains, which are beautiful in the wintertime. Actually, it's beautiful if you have a view of Mingus Mountain any time of the year, but especially when they're snow-capped and covered with a little dusting in the wintertime, gives that sparkly wonderland look. You have a lot of homes that are near the creek or have a view of the creek or have the view of some water. So there are many homes in Verde Valley that have a nice view, and it's just pleasant to live in a rural community where you've got views of nature, mountains, and possibly a creek. Okay, the third pro to living in Verde Valley is you may be able to pick up a home that is on acreage. There are quite a few homes on 1 acre, but you could even get homes that are on a bigger plot of land, which might allow you to have some farm animals, perhaps a horse. There are a lot of people looking for horse property, or maybe pick up a couple of goats or some chickens. So it is nice to have a little bit of space that you could grow a little vegetable garden or have a couple of farm animals. So homes on acreage are available in the Verde Valley, especially towns like Camp Verde, Cornville, Rimrock, and then you still also can see some homes on acreage in Cottonwood and even Clarkdale if you're looking. But the possibility to have a little bit of a homestead, home on acreage, that is definitely an advantage to living in Verde Valley, Arizona. Okay, number 4 is there are a lot of activities to do outdoors. If you're an outdoor person, there's great places to go. Of course, the Verde River runs through Verde Valley, so if you like river sports, kayaking, picnicking just on the river, a lot of places to go. You can also go hiking, you can ride side-by-sides, you can go to Mingus Mountain where you still have a little bit of a foresty vibe, go to Jerome or go to neighboring Sedona. There's a lot of parks. You've got like Tuzagut, you've got Dead Horse Park, you've got Montezuma Well, Montezuma Castle, so lots of activities. There's the Clarkdale train station, so lots of outdoorsy type things to do if you live in Verde Valley. And also it's neighboring to Sedona, which brings me to my pro number 5, is you're right next to Sedona, Arizona, and if you are into all of the touristy stuff that happens in Sedona, it's about depending on where you live in Verde Valley, of course, probably 20 minutes from Cornville, say, maybe 30 minutes from Cottonwood, so you can get to Sedona very quickly and do all of the things that Sedona has to offer. And I forgot to mention the wine tasting. There are a lot of vineyards in Verde Valley, especially in like the Page Springs area of Cornville, so lots of stuff to do, especially the outdoorsy stuff. And then being next to Sedona is nice because a lot of times people come to me. I do live in Sedona. Verde Valley is my primary selling area. A lot of people come to me looking for a home in Sedona, and they get sticker shock on the price of homes. And you could go to Verde Valley, which is just, like I say, 20 minutes to maybe 45 if you're a little bit further away in Camp Verde, minutes away from Sedona, and you can get a house for about maybe 35% less, just going right outside of the outskirts of Sedona. So being next to Sedona and being next to so many things to do, that is my pro number 5. And now let's move into the cons. So the first con I'm going to say about living in Verde Valley is a lot of people think, especially if you're coming from Phoenix, they think, oh, it's got to be cheap in Verde Valley, and they call me and they're like, I got $300,000 cash. I want a house, stick-built house on acreage with a great view, with the 2-car garage and a detached casita. You know, they're thinking that it's still a 1997 prices, and that's not the case. Verde Valley homes are still somewhat expensive. In fact, I just looked up the median list price of a single-family home in Cottonwood, Arizona, and it is $522,000 as of late October 2024. So home prices are about equivalent to what they might be in, like, say, Chandler. So not the big bargain basement that many people are expecting, still somewhat expensive. Don't be expecting it to be like 1997 prices just because it's a little bit of a rural town. In fact, sometimes that makes it more expensive because of the supply and demand, right? There is a small supply of homes. Like I was saying, the population of some of these towns is very small, so there are not a lot of homes for sale, and that means that the houses aren't going to be like super bargainy, and a lot of people are expecting that, and they get sticker shock. So prices are still somewhat expensive, although when you're going to compare it to Sedona, which is right next door, like I say, 20 to 30 minutes away, prices are much more affordable in Verde Valley. So the second con I'm going to say to living in Verde Valley is there are a lot of the rural areas now, not if you're inside of the city limits or, you know, of Cottonwood or Camp Verde or Clarkdale, say, but there are a lot of homes that have a well to supply the water, and many of them, of course, have septic tanks. Now, to me, a septic tank is no big deal because I've grown up on them, I've had maybe 5 or 6 homes on septic tanks. It's not a problem. The well is sometimes can be an issue. Now, there are many people that want a well, and that is their sole criteria for moving to Verde Valley because they really like the independence of having their own water supply. But what has been happening, what does happen sometimes is you test the water quality. A lot of the wells in Verde Valley this year, 2024, but this happens periodically, will come up with high levels of arsenic in the water when you do a water test. Now, there is a way to rectify this, is you ask the seller, if you're buying a home, to put on a filter. They put on the filter, they do the water test, the arsenic is removed from the water, and you have a good supply of water. But that does freak people out. Sometimes they do the water test and they're like, oh my God, there's arsenic in the water. Well, that can happen pretty much anywhere, especially the time of year, but just be aware that there are many houses, if you're very rural, that might have the water supply on a private well or a shared well. And if you do the well inspection during the home purchase, which I always recommend, there's 2 parts to the well inspection. One is where they're going to inspect the equipment of the well, the pump, the amount of water that flows through, and the pressure. But the other part is the water test, and then sometimes the water test can come up with high levels of arsenic, and then you want to ask the seller to put on a filter. If the seller says no, you may want to put on that filter yourself, but that is just another downside of living in a very rural community like the Verde Valley. So another thing that may come up is a lot of times, because we're Verde Valley is named Verde Valley because the Verde River runs through it, and there are going to be some homes, especially the beautiful homes on the creek or the river, that are considered a floodplain. Floodplain might be a flood zone A, flood zone AE, and those homes may require you to purchase flood insurance, which will be outside of your regular homeowner insurance policy. So floodplains, that is something that comes up if you're buying a home in Verde Valley, and that's just another thing that you have to deal with if you're in very close to the river. And of course that makes the land more attractive if you can look out of your back balcony and see the river, but that might require you to purchase the home insurance. Okay, so another thing that could be an issue is, again, a rural community. You're going to have stuff like coyotes. So if you've got chickens in your backyard, beware coyotes. My friend had a couple of ducks and chickens, and a coyote broke into the chicken coop and killed like 3 ducks one night. Now, of course, Verde Valley is not the only place in Arizona that has coyotes. My ex-husband had a ranch in Chandler. Coyotes were breaking in and killing fowl and even killed goats in the property in Chandler until he got some donkeys. Donkeys seem to make the coyotes scared, but critters like coyotes, you also could have snakes and bugs, so those types of critters will come up in a rural environment, and they certainly do exist in Verde Valley, Arizona. Okay, so number 4 is because it is a rural community. There's not a lot of nightlife in Verde Valley. I mean, there's some. You could go to a bar and certainly close it down, but there's not a whole lot of choices of nightlife and clubs and things that you might want to do late in the evening. If you're a night owl, I am no longer a night owl since I hit my 50s, but if that's something you're looking for, maybe Verde Valley is not the right place for you. And then one last thing I want to mention is I've had people, because it's a small town, you might be used to having all sorts of stores to shop in, but there's not. Like, there's not a Costco, there's not a Sam's Club, there's not a Trader Joe's, there's not even a Target or a Kohl's or anything like that. There is a Walmart, there's a Home Depot, and there's some good groceries, but there's not a lot of the stores that you might have been accustomed to, like the big box stores. So again, not a lot of stuff like that to do, not a lot of shopping. Of course, you can go an hour to Flagstaff and you can find all that stuff, or go around Mingus Mountain to the south and go to Prescott, and there's all those things to do too. But like within Verde Valley, again, no Costco, no Trader Joe's, so a lot of those conveniences that you might have been used to if you're coming from Phoenix or another state, they're not going to be available in Verde Valley. So that's it. My name is Dawn Dickinson. That is the pros and cons of living in Verde Valley, Arizona. I am a licensed real estate agent in the state of Arizona, and I do sell a lot of homes in Sedona and Verde Valley. So if you ever have a question about buying or selling a home, please reach out to me. My website, my contact information is always in the description below, so if you give me a phone call or a text or an email, I will get back to you. I hope you enjoyed the video. I produce videos every single week about real estate or living in the northern Arizona town, so if you like this kind of information, please do me a favor and hit the thumbs up, consider subscribing, and I hope you come back and see me next week on a brand new video about living in northern Arizona.